Let's bring in Congresswoman Laurel from Florida. She is a member of the Trump Assassination Attempt Task Force. She was in the hearing today. I would have loved to have seen Mayorkas and some other folks testifying before Congress today, but it's good that you got to hear from the local authorities who were on the scene. What was your biggest takeaway from today, Congresswoman?
Today was an opportunity for the American public to hear from the local law enforcement officers who were part of the team that was on the ground to secure the Butler site. One of the most important things you touched on, which was the lack of a unified command center. So Secret Service relies on these partners to secure a site, but that only works if they all have a game plan, that they all have communication on the day of the event. So when something suspicious happens or there's something that needs to be addressed, they all understand and get that information simultaneously. So today really made clear that local law enforcement did not have the support, the plan, and the communication that they needed from Secret Service in order to do their jobs effectively.
Yeah, there was the lack of communications, as you point out, which has been noted many times in the past. There was also the lack of instruction. Ed Lentz, who's the Butler County Emergency Services Unit Commander, seemed to make a lot of news today, particularly when he said this. Listen here.
We didn't receive any direction from the Secret Service as far as how they wanted our sniper teams to deploy or what their actual mission would be.
What was your mission as you understood it that day?
As we understood it, it was to deploy sniper teams to overwatch the stage, the crowd, the venue area where most of the people would be gathering.
No specific instruction from the Secret Service, and then we end up with the AGR roof being uncovered.
Exactly. So they're looking out over the crowd and in that direction. And there was no specific instruction about securing that AGR building that ended up being the point of vulnerability. It was also clear that the perimeter was not nearly broad enough, that there were buildings that needed to be secured that weren't secured. So in the coming weeks, we'll be hearing more from Secret Service. The task force itself has had the opportunity to receive documents, to get briefings, but it's important for the American public to continue to hear from federal law enforcement, from Secret Service. And you're absolutely right. We need to hear from Secretary Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, who ultimately is responsible for making sure that Secret Service has the resources, the guidance, and the protocols that they need to be successful.
So, you probably heard David Spunt mention this, but there's the idea that there was clearly a threat of some nature, and yet the information was never passed to the president's protective detail that you might want to hold Mogul from either going to the stage or maybe secure him on the stage because we got a security situation here. Here's what the Senate interim report said, quote, shortly before shots were fired, a Secret Service counter-sniper saw local law enforcement running toward the AGR building with their guns drawn, but did not alert former President Trump's protective detail to remove him from the stage. The USS counter-sniper told the committee that while seeing officers with their guns drawn elevated the threat level, the thought to notify someone to get Trump off the stage, quote, did not cross his mind. I mean, protocol with local law enforcement is you don't draw your gun unless you're possibly going to use it. And if you're a sniper team and on Overwatch and you see a bunch of local police officers with their guns drawn, that means ding, 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 there's a problem here.
That's right. It's really unfathomable that that kind of threat information, that kind of information could be coming to them. And they don't say, hey, time out. Let's get the president off the stage, get him to a safe place. And that could have changed everything. So that is one of the key points of failure. Of course, we had the issues leading up, the issues of communication on the day of. But those minutes immediately surrounding shots being fired, how that information did not get to the people who needed it in the Secret Service team, and why they allowed President Trump to take the stage and then stay on it. Those are some of the most foundational questions. And here's why it's so important, because President Trump is still out there every day in the public talking to voters and getting his message out in America. And so there needs to be a level of assurance that he is being kept safe, that the protective detail is doing the things that they need to do, and that something like this isn't going to happen for President Trump or any of the other people who are under that protective detail.
You know, one of the things that's been rolling around in my mind here is we know that Thomas Crooks came up on the FBI's radar back in 2019. How many times have sites been left unsecured, but there was just never a shooter there trying to take out the former president? And then we see with Ryan Ruth that he was in the area of Trump International Golf Course and Mar-a-Lago for the better part of a month before he was found by the Secret Service hiding in the bushes. And what does that say about the intelligence regarding threats to the former president, particularly in light of this huge threat from Iran that he was briefed on, and the Secret Service and others' ability to be able to uncover and identify these threats before they get anywhere near the former president?
And that is why only one of the things that's relevant to the level of protective details should be status as a current president or former president. That's one piece. But the second piece is accepting the reality of the threat environment. And the threat environment right now, as it relates to President Trump, is extreme. We know that. We've seen that. So at this point, he needs to be getting every bit of available resource to make sure that he's being kept safe, up to and including that which is assigned to the current sitting president.
I mean, these were a couple of misfit wannabes who nearly took out the president. Imagine what a trained team could do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we know that there are foreign actors. We know that there are people out there that are making these kinds of threats. We know that it exists. And so it needs to be something that is front and center of everything Secret Service is doing. And all available resources need to be put there to make sure that he's kept safe.
Congresswoman, thank you for the download. We appreciate it.
Great to see you.